Hello. Okay, the Holy Roman Empire. In your notes, we just finished the whole three-field thing, windmills, water wheels. And now you're starting with the HRE, the Holy Roman Empire. Speaking of, I will often, look right here in my notes, I will often do this. That means Holy Roman Empire. Just FYI. Okay, before we start looking at stuff, I want you to notice something. The Holy Roman Empire starts on Christmas Day, the year 800. Then it is in decline that fast. It doesn't actually go away legally until the 1800s. But it's just an empire in name, honestly. It kind of starts dying in the medieval period, which is weird. And I'll explain that. Like after Charlemagne right here, 814, it's already in decline. But for sure, the 1600s, nobody cares about the Holy Roman Empire anymore. 1800s, it's still there in name until then. Okay, that being said, there's kind of a historical joke. It's not really a joke haha, unless you're a historian. And then it's that's funny. But it's kind of a joke that the Holy Roman Empire, it's not holy. It's not Roman, it's German and Italian. And it's not even really a true empire. This is the Holy Roman Empire. It's a massive chunk of Europe. Over here you have Eastern Europe, okay? And then over here you have Western Europe. Holy Roman Empire is in the middle. Italy right here. This right here is Muslim-controlled land. We'll get there. We'll talk about it. It's the Ottoman Empire at this point. But it's Muslim-controlled land. I don't think they've actually taken the name Ottoman Empire yet. I think they're just still calling themselves the Seljuks, the Seljuk Turks, but that doesn't matter. And then up here you have the Norsemen, the Vikings, okay? So the Holy Roman Empire, that's huge. It's massive. It's northern Italy, and then the Germanies. Okay. This is not a unified empire at all. You have 300-ish tiny little bitty Germanic and Italian kingdoms in this area. 300-ish. If you have that many kingdoms and they're all fighting for control, this is war central right here. It's a mess, okay? But previous to the creation of the Holy Roman Empire, before it was created, we have a king of a tribe, a group of people called the Franks, Franks, the Franks. It's going to turn into France. The Franks live here. Franks, okay? They're a Germanic people group. You're like, no, they're French. Yeah, the French are Germanic. They'll hate you if you say that. If you tell a Frenchman he's Germanic blood, he'll hate you forever. But they're Germanic blood. The king of the Franks at this point is a man named Charlemagne. Okay, please listen. You know how I'm big on names, saying them right, and I guess because my name is weird. Geraldine, I get it. You should say people's names right. That's why I always have you say names in class. You're gonna hear this guy's name said all the time in America as Charlemagne. You hear him called Charlemagne because that is the English pronunciation of his name. Well, he's not English. He's French. And it's medieval French. It's old French. So it's not the same language as modern French. It's Charlemagne. Okay. So, Charlemagne is the king of the Franks. Yeah? Well, one day he gets a messenger. And the messenger says, you need to be here in Rome to talk to the Pope. by this date, December 25th, the year 800. Charlemagne is like, okay. So he travels to see the Pope. And the Pope's like, on your knees. Okay. Charlemagne gets on his knees. The Pope crowns him. I dub thee Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. Charlemagne is like, awesome. What's that? Because the Pope just created it. Okay, now listen. Charlemagne was a big deal in the Pope's eyes because he's a warrior king. He's not a king that sits on his butt and says, go do this, go do this. He's a warrior king. Okay, that's not why the Pope's into him. But what happens is he's moving up here, spreading Christianity to the northern Germanic people and the Vikings that live up here. You're like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? These up here are a warrior people. The Germanic peoples, they're a warrior people throughout history. And Charlemagne, Germanic, he's a warrior king. Well, these other warrior peoples listen to him because they have respect for him, like military respect for him. So when he starts talking about his religion, and you should follow my God, Jesus, because he's awesome. And he starts spreading Christianity. A lot of these northern kings listen. So see, Christianity had been moving up this way, but under Charlemagne, it really catches fire this way, even though that's not his kingdom. Well, this whole area was just massive war. And the Pope down here in Rome is like, okay, we gotta fix this war problem. We gotta quit fighting amongst ourselves. So he's thinking, if I can give all of these kings an emperor above them that they respect, then maybe the war will calm down. The fighting will stop. So here are some pictures of Charlemagne statues. Okay, this is a famous one. It's a little bronze equestrian statue. I like that one. That one's cool. This one, I believe, is in Germany. It doesn't say up there. That looks very German style. But this is him. That's him. A gold bust of him. Cool. This one, that one's way cool. Look at that. Oh, yeah. He's a warrior king. I think that might be the last one I have. Oh, okay. This right here is Charlemagne kneeling to the Pope. Right here. And the Pope is crowning him Holy Roman Emperor. Okay. Okay, guys, because Charlemagne was such a big deal, every other European king is like, I want to be crowned by the Pope. The Pope speaks for God. So the Pope putting a crown on Charlemagne's head is like saying, God gives you this power. Well, every other king is like, I want power from God too. So every other king is going to Charlemagne in Rome, is going to the Pope in Rome, and they're like, crown me too, please. I want power from God. Okay, right now, Charlemagne showed submission to the Pope. When the Pope says kneel, Charlemagne does it. Why? Because he's Catholic and the Pope's in charge. Yes, sir. He kneels. That's precedent for other kings to allow the Pope to be above them. Make sense? Every king almost is going to expect the Pope to crown him king. Well, that shows submission. That shows that he's higher than you. That shows that the Pope is higher than the king. When you kneel to him, you're putting him above you. What the Pope just did is he put Charlemagne right here, in charge of all of the kings in this area. the 300-ish kings in this area. Okay, so the Pope tells Charlemagne, hey, pass this law. Charlemagne says, okay. Hey, kings, pass this law. And all of these kings in their respective kingdoms pass the law. Does that make sense? It's kind of like if like the superintendent of schools is the Pope. We don't ever see him. No offense, right? But he passes laws. He goes to the head principal and says, pass this law. And the head principal is like our emperor. The emperor tells us to pass a law, and we go, okay, I am like the king in charge of one little class, and I pass the law in my classroom. Sometimes. Okay, so that's kind of how it's going to, I don't know, flush out, where you have the feudal system. Once the emperors get put in place, you have the Pope, and then the emperors who are in charge of a group of kings. And then the kings are in charge of their nobles and their peasants, just like I'm in charge of my class. Okie dokie? Okay, so this right here is what the Holy Roman Empire looks like. Sorry, when Charlemagne dies. When Charlemagne dies, he has 3 sons. My family is staring at me. Anyway, he has 3 sons, all right? And he doesn't want to just give one son. His oldest son right here, oh, no, here he is, Charles the Bald. Charles the Bald. It would be like Charles Jr. By the way, Charlemagne, look, let me show you. The name, this, Magna, is great. It's like Magna in English, if you know Latin stuff. Charla is Charles. So it's Charles the Great. So his son, Charles the Bald, he's called, is, how that rhymes, is like Charles Jr. Okay. He didn't want to give Charles the Bald the entire thing and leave his other sons out. So he divides the empire this way before he dies. All of this, his original French kingdom right here, goes to his oldest son, Charles. Okay. Then Lothar, his son, gets this. All right. Then his other son, dang, Louis? Is it Louis? Yeah, Louis. His other son, Louis, gets this. Okay. Now, later, Louis is going to come and take over this. So he's like expanding the Holy Roman Empire. But the Holy Roman Empire only looks like this under Charlemagne. You'll hear other people call it the Carolingian Empire, where you have this plus France. I mean, that's a huge chunk of land for Charlemagne to be in charge of. Huge. But really, who's above him? The Pope. But sometimes it's called the Carolingian Empire. But the Holy Roman Empire will end up being this. There's not one emperor. You have the Pope still in charge, okay? But then this is a little weird. You have Charles the Bald, who's in charge of the kings here. Well, he's the only one. You have Lothar, who's in charge of the kings here. And then you have Louis, who's in charge of the kings here. Do you think these 3 boys got along all the time? No. So what is actually going to end up happening is this. I hate to put this on video, but you and I both know it's true. Look at that. What a mess. That's the Holy Roman Empire. Because here's what happens. The Pope, in our situation, the superintendent, passes a law. Yeah? The emperor, in our situation, the principal, tells us that a law has been passed. And we, the kings, go, yeah, I don't like that law, I ain't doing it. Not that I ever do that. Guys, we never see the Pope, the superintendent. We rarely see the emperor, the principal. No. So If I don't see them, how are they going to know that I'm following their laws? Do you see that? What's going to end up happening is each one of these individual kings, look at this mess. These are all the kingdoms inside of the Holy Roman Empire. This over here, this section over here is what Louis controls. This section here in the middle is what Lothar controls. And this over here is what Charles the Bald controls. But what happens is the kings and the individual nobles of each little kingdom actually end up with more power. Okay, I'm not being rude. If you, in our little example, if I'm your king and you're my people, you're my kingdom people, who are you more loyal to? Are you more loyal to the superintendent? Do you even know his name? Or are you more loyal to the principal? Or are you more loyal to me? Your king who you see every day. I mean, I know the answer. What's going to end up happening is even though there is a pope, obviously, and there is an emperor in charge of places, most of the kings and most of the nobles in each one of these individual kingdoms, they're going to do whatever they want. They're told, do this. And the teachers, the kings go, yeah, okay, I did it. No, I didn't. And the Pope way down here never knows that King Bob up here didn't do what he said. Does that make sense? So the Holy Roman Empire is kind of a mess. It's not kind of a mess, it is. And it's going to be this way until the 1600s for sure. And then in the 1600s, this kind of goes away and we start getting like hardcore big kingdoms. Okay? Sorry. And once we end up with that, by the 1800s, this is dead on paper too. Now, one of the things about Charlemagne that I need to tell you before we go, Charlemagne couldn't read or write. He couldn't even sign his own name. One of the things we know that he did to like sign laws and stuff is, you know, he would like take the wax and put his signet ring, his like kingly ring inside. That was his signature, right? It's like got a big C on it. He's big on education. He pushes education big time because he wasn't educated. And he didn't really like that. So he pushes education in the Holy Roman Empire on his boys, on his sons. He wants them to be educated. Well, who is educated during this time period? In Europe? Not a lot of people. I'm not knocking my Europeans. I love them. But the medieval Europeans aren't book smart. They aren't educated like we're educated. They got street smarts, but book smart? So who's going to be the teachers? Look right here. Okay, look. The clergy. Clergymen, especially monks, priests, especially monks though, they can read. One of their jobs is to copy Bibles by hand in a scriptorium. They are going to be like the teachers, the educators for noble boys. Now, at this point, peasant boys or girls, they're not going to school. And at this point, women aren't going to school. If a girl's going to be educated, it's because like her brother or her father or her husband later wants her to be. Okay. But noble boys can go to the clergy, the monk, and they can be educated. Now, it's predominantly learning how to read, write, and basic math. There's not like science class yet. There's not like history class yet. It's basically reading, writing, math. Okay. And what we're reading and writing is the Bible. And a lot of our math is coming from like biblical stories. Okay. But I mean, it's a stepping place. It's a place to start so that we can grow education and eventually start having like real universities. Like whenever you see this word university here, don't think of it like what we have. we're not going to have like real medieval universities until later, like the University of Paris. That's coming later. But these are just like little schools that are happening in the church that the monks are doing. All right. And you might have like 4 boys that you're teaching at a time how to read, because that's all the noble boys that exist at this point. Okay. So at first, Charlemagne is going to be using the clergy for educational purposes. Later, of course, we'll end up having people who like become actual teachers in actual universities, like again, the University of Paris or Oxford or some of those medieval ones. Alrighty, Byzantine Empire is next. Bye.